Well, the Nifty 50 were believed to be the best and fastest growing companies in America. Uh, Prior to the 60s, most investment was in stable traditional companies, industrial companies, transportation, utilities, and that kind of thing, railroads. Uh, in roughly in the 60s, investors started to focus on something called growth investing and growth companies. I remember being in my dad's apartment in 1963 and seeing the first brochure on growth stocks. And that's what the Nifty 50 were believed to be. IBM, Xerox, Kodak, Polaroid, Merck, Lilly, Avon, Coca-Cola, etc. Companies that were considered to be A, so good nothing bad could ever happen, and so good that no price was too high. And if you bought those stocks the day I reported to work in September of 69, and if you held them firmly with patience and discipline, in 5 years, you lost about over 90% of your money because A, no company is so good that it can't have negative developments, and no company is so good that it can't be overpriced and dangerous. And so I learned a very valuable lesson from that. You can learn these lessons in the books all you want. Living through it is a different kind of lesson. And what it taught me was that it's not what you buy, it's what you pay. And there is no asset so good that it can't be overpriced and dangerous. And there are very few assets so bad that they're not a buy at some price. And so this was a change in my thinking and a change in the world's thinking at this time. Rather than saying these are good assets and these are bad assets, we switched to saying, well, yes, it may be risky, but the promised return or the expected return more than compensates for the risk. So I'm going to do it. And the whole industry runs today on risk return thinking properly. And without it, we wouldn't have private equity, venture capital, and many other forms of investing.
Right. So, Howard, would you see that as essentially a form of what would be known today as value investing as opposed to growth investing?
Well, uh, the the Nifty 50 were growth stocks, selling at very high prices with meaningless dividend yields and very high PE ratios in the present, but highly valued because of all the rosy things that people saw down the road. So that's called growth investing. And value investing basically means buying things for less than they're worth and garnering that value. You buy something for less than it's worth, it goes to what it's worth, you make up the difference and you move on.
Right. So, so back in 1974, when they had dropped that much, many of these companies are still in existence. I presume at that point in time, your view of these companies would have been to consider acquiring them.
The problem is, yes, you're right, John, but the problem is that number one, most people had no money left because if you have all your money in the Nifty 50 and they crap out, you'd like to average down, but with what? And then the other thing was that people had their confidence blasted, and when you buy something at 100 because you love it and it falls to 10, it's hard to go back in and buy more. You should usually, that's one of the main things Oak Tree does is turn super aggressive in panics.
Right.
But it's hard. It's hard.
But if you think about your return over, let's say, an extended period of time, how you react during a crisis is probably one of the biggest drivers of your long-term performance, is it not?
Well, it certainly is. First of all, that's a really good observation. First of all, the worst single thing you can do as an investor, and there are many ways to make mistakes, and there are many things you can do wrong, but the worst of all, in my opinion, is having bought something and having seen it deteriorate in price, selling it just because it's down. Let's look at the market overall. You buy in, it drops 30%. That's really okay if you're patient, because chances are the next high is going to be higher than the last high. And the economy and the market benefit from an upward sloping secular trend line.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But so buying high and having it fall is not the worst thing in the world, because the next high is probably going to be higher. The worst thing in the world is buying high and having it fall and selling it, because then you don't participate in the recovery.
Right.
So
right.
I describe this as the cardinal sin of investing. Alternatively, if you can muster the nerve, buying on the low is a very important way to make money, in my opinion, safely.
At the height of the pandemic, Zoom became one of the most expensive stock in the market. It traded at well over 300x earnings, and at a certain point in 2020, depending on the earnings period, its trailing PE ratio exceeded 700x and even 2000x. But investors kept buying because they believed the company's explosive growth would continue forever. In 2021, Zoom's profits surged by an incredible 2,500%, which seemed to justify the optimism. But as the world returned to normal, growth slowed, valuations came back to reality, and the stock eventually fell more than 85% from its peak. A similar story played out with Tata Elxsi. During the pandemic, it was one of the biggest market winners, rising nearly 15x from the COVID lows to its peak in 2022. At the top, the stock traded at around 110x earnings. Between 2015 and 2023, the company's profits compounded at roughly 30% annually, leading many investors to believe that such growth would continue indefinitely. Instead, earnings growth slowed. As expectation reset and valuation compressed, the stock declined nearly 66% from its peak. So what is the lesson here? As Warren Buffett once said, what the wise do in the beginning, fools do in the end. Investors often convince themselves that a great company can do no wrong and that no price is too high to pay. But history repeatedly shows that no company is so great that it cannot face temporary setbacks, and no business is so exceptional that it cannot become overpriced. In both Zoom and Tata Elxsi, there was no catastrophic event that destroyed the business. The key change was that profit growth normalized, while valuation returned to more reasonable levels. When expectations are unrealistic, even a great company can become a poor investment. Have you ever owned a stock where business remained strong, but the share price fell sharply because the valuation wasn't simply too expensive? Let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your experience.